All right, so you sent us a court judgment and a case study about this bank heist in Uganda.
Yeah, it's a
And
good one.
it's not just like some petty theft.
Yeah.
This is like $1 million inside job
It is.
with a twist.
It really is a fascinating case, not just because of the audacity of the crime itself, but because it marks a turning point, I think, in Uganda's legal history. Their first ever money laundering convictions under the 2013 Anti-Money Laundering Act.
And get this, we're talking fake passports.
Wow.
A viral WhatsApp video with the thieves flaunting stacks of cash.
Yeah.
I mean, this has all the makings of a Hollywood thriller,
It does.
but with real-world consequences.
Exactly. And those consequences weren't just for the perpetrators.
Right.
This case put a spotlight on the systems Uganda had in place to combat financial crime, revealing both strength and areas that needed urgent attention.
So before we get into like the nitty-gritty of the investigation on legal battle, let's set the scene.
Okay.
What exactly went down at the Oasis Mall branch of Equity Bank
Okay.
back in March 2015?
Well, the target was significant. $1,450,000 US belonging to two Southern Sudanese nationals who had accounts at Equity Bank's Juba branch.
Okay.
The perpetrators?
Yeah.
None other than bank employees themselves.
Wow.
Led by the branch's operations manager, David Sserwamba.
Okay, hold up. An inside job of this scale.
Huge.
You'd think a bank would have safeguards against this kind of thing.
You'd think so, right?
Right.
But Sserwamba, along with a cash officer named Reagan Okoth and a teller, Moses Kavuma, managed to exploit their knowledge of the system. They forged documents,
Wow.
impersonated the account holders,
Uh-huh.
and even bypassed biometric security measures.
It's like a financial heist playbook come to life.
Yeah,
What's really striking is how brazen they were.
I know.
That WhatsApp video of them celebrating with the stolen cash.
Oh, yeah.
Almost like they wanted to get caught.
You know that video speaks volumes.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about showing off.
Right.
It revealed a level of confidence, perhaps even arrogance,
Oh.
that they thought they could get away with it.
Yeah.
Of course, it ended up being a crucial piece of evidence for the prosecution.
Talk about shooting yourself in the foot.
For sure.
So with a crime this big, how did the Ugandan authorities even begin to unravel this web of deceit?
Right.
Was the video the main lead?
The video definitely played a key role, especially in identifying individuals outside the bank who were involved in spending and hiding the money.
Okay.
But what's interesting is that this investigation was prosecution-led from the very beginning, which was unusual in Uganda at the time.
So why the change in approach?
Yeah.
Were the police out of their depth with this whole money laundering thing?
It wasn't so much about being out of their depth,
Okay.
but recognizing that the complexities of the new Anti-Money Laundering Act required a different strategy.
Right.
They brought in the prosecutors early on to guide the investigation and build a rock-solid case.
Smart move.
Yeah.
Especially since this was uncharted territory for Uganda's legal system.
Yeah.
How did the prosecution tackle a case of this magnitude?
They realized they couldn't just focus on catching the thieves. They had to follow the money.
Yeah.
So they split into two teams.
Okay.
One focused on the bank theft itself,
Yeah.
building the case against Sserwamba and the bank employees, while the other dedicated themselves to untangling the complex web of financial transactions.
A classic two-pronged attack.
Exactly.
Did they manage to recover much of the stolen money? I mean, $1 million is a pretty hefty sum to just disappear.
Well, that's where things get complicated.
Okay.
While they did seize some assets, cash, land, vehicles, a significant portion of the stolen money vanished. This made proving money laundering tricky, but the prosecution got creative.
I'm all ears.
Yeah.
How do you prove money laundering if you can't trace the actual money?
They relied heavily on accomplice testimony.
Oh.
By offering deals to some of the conspirators in exchange for their cooperation, they gained invaluable insights into how the money was laundered, even if they couldn't pinpoint the exact location of every dollar.
Ah, the age-old tactic of turning the smaller fish to catch the bigger one.
Exactly.
But I'm curious, what did this accomplice testimony reveal about how Sserwamba and his crew tried to claim their dirty money?
Well, the accomplice testimony painted a fascinating picture of their money laundering operation.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about hiding cash under mattresses. They were buying land vehicles, even funding a lavish trip to Dubai. They were trying to make that dirty money look legitimate.
So living the high life while trying to cover their tracks.
Right.
Classics.
Yeah.
Did they have any clever strategies for making the money disappear?
They tried the usual tactics,
Yeah.
using fake names, shell companies, and putting assets in the names of family members.
Okay.
For instance, one of the key conspirators outside the bank, Kalonji Abubakar,
Okay.
purchased a Mercedes-Benz with cash and registered it under the seller's name.
Wow.
Then he bought a plot of land but put it under his mother's name.
Trying to create layers of separation between themselves and the stolen funds. But remember that incriminating WhatsApp video?
Oh, yeah.
I bet that blew their whole, we had nothing to do with the defense right out of the water.
Absolutely. That video showed Abu Bakr and another conspirator, Shafiq Mubarak, literally tossing around bundles of US dollars.
Wow.
It was undeniable evidence of their involvement, and the prosecution used it to great effect.
Talk about a rookie mistake.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, did they manage to nail down exactly where all the money went?
Oh.
Was it all flashy cars and real estate?
Well, that's the thing about money laundering.
Right.
It's designed to be elusive. While they traced a lot of it to those purchases, some of the funds just vanish. For instance, Sserwamba's confidant, Kia Matthew, admitted to receiving a large sum and using it to buy another Mercedes, but then he claimed he gave a chunk of it to someone named Nafi for safekeeping, and Nafi promptly disappeared with $110,000.
Wow. A thief stealing from a thief.
Exactly.
It's like a whole other crime within the bigger scandal.
Yeah.
Did they ever catch this Navi character?
The court judgment doesn't say, but it's safe to assume that money is gone for good.
Yeah.
It really highlights the challenges investigators face.
Yeah.
Sometimes the money trail goes cold, leaving more questions than answers.
It's a reminder that these criminals are often one step ahead, even when they make seemingly careless mistakes, like that WhatsApp video.
Yeah.
But before we move on, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, accomplice testimony.
Right.
How crucial was it in securing these historic convictions?
It was absolutely pivotal.
Yeah.
Remember, the prosecution had to prove that these weren't just isolated acts of theft. They had to demonstrate a deliberate attempt to conceal the origin of the stolen funds.
Right.
The accomplices provided the inside scoop on how they tried to do just that.
So their testimony filled in the gaps, connecting the dots between the stolen money and the attempts to make it clean.
Yeah.
But what about the accomplices themselves? Did they get off scot-free?
Not exactly. They were still held accountable for their roles, but they received lighter sentences in exchange for their cooperation. Yeah.
It's a tricky ethical balancing act,
Right.
but it's a common practice in these types of cases.
It makes sense sometimes you have to make deals with the devil to bring down the bigger demons.
Yeah.
Speaking of devils, let's talk about the key players in this saga.
Okay.
What can you tell us about the mastermind behind this whole operation, David Sserwamba?
Sserwamba was clearly a charismatic and manipulative figure. He had a good job, a position of authority.
Yeah.
Yet it seems like greed was his driving force. He was living beyond his means.
Right.
And he was willing to exploit his colleagues and betray his position of trust to get more.
It's like that classic tale of ambition gone wrong, blinded by the allure of wealth and power. He ended up losing everything.
Yeah.
What about the others involved, like the cash officer, Reagan Okoff?
Right.
He was initially charged with embezzlement, but the court found him guilty of a different crime, right?
Yes. He was convicted of causing financial loss.
Okay.
The court determined that while he played a crucial role in facilitating the heist, he wasn't directly stealing the money.
Right.
But his actions, like lying to his superiors and helping pay the fake customers, were negligent and contributed to the bank's losses.
So he was more of a pawn in Sserwamba's game.
Yeah.
Caught between following orders and knowing something shady was going on.
Right.
Did the court take that into consideration when handing down his sentence?
They did. He received a shorter prison term than Sserwamba, reflecting his lesser level of culpability.
Okay.
Then there's Moses Kavuna, the teller, who actually processed those massive withdrawals.
Right.
He claimed he was just following orders, unaware of the fraud.
Okay.
What's interesting is that the court actually believed him.
Seriously?
Yeah.
So he just blindly processed these huge transactions without raising any red flags?
Well, remember, Sserwamba was his superior.
Yeah.
And he brought these VIP customers directly to Kavuma's counter, instructing him to process the transactions.
Okay.
The court ultimately concluded that while he should have been more diligent, he was misled by his bosses.
So he became a scapegoat, in a way.
Taking the fall for his superior's actions, it's a cautionary tale about blind obedience, especially when it comes to financial matters.
It also underscores the importance of training and awareness programs within institutions like banks.
Right.
Employees need to be equipped to recognize red flags and feel empowered to speak up if they suspect wrongdoing, regardless of who's giving the orders.
Absolutely. It's not just about protecting the institution. It's about protecting the employees themselves from becoming unwitting accomplices.
Right.
This case really puts a human face on the often abstract world of financial crime.
Yeah.
It's not just about numbers on a balance sheet. It's about real people making choices with real consequences for themselves and others.
For sure.
It's mind-boggling how one case can reveal so much about a country's systems and vulnerabilities.
It really is.
Did this whole saga with its twists and turns ultimately lead to any significant changes in Uganda's approach to fighting financial crime?
Absolutely. The Sserwamba case was a wake-up call for Uganda's financial sector. It exposed weaknesses in their systems and their capacity to investigate complex financial crimes. They realized they couldn't just rely on reactive measures.
Right.
They needed a proactive and comprehensive strategy.
So it wasn't just about catching the bad guys in this instance. It was about preventing future Sserwambas from emerging.
Exactly.
What concrete steps did they take to tighten things up?
They took a multi-pronged approach.
Okay.
First, they beefed up their Anti-Money Laundering Act.
Okay.
The 2013 Act was a good starting point.
Yeah.
But this case revealed loopholes that criminals could exploit.
Got it.
They introduced stricter due diligence requirements for banks to really scrutinize their customers and transactions. They expanded the definition of what constitutes a predicate offense, basically widening the net of activities that could trigger money laundering investigations.
Okay.
And they gave more power to the Financial Intelligence Authority, their main agency for combating financial crime.
It sounds like they were determined to send a clear message. Uganda is no longer open for business to money launderers.
Yeah.
Did these changes have the desired effect?
They definitely had an impact. It's no coincidence that we've seen a significant increase in money laundering investigations and prosecutions in Uganda since the Sserwamba case. But beyond that, it sent ripples throughout the region.
Really?
Other countries facing similar challenges look to Uganda as an example of how to tackle this problem head-on, even with limited resources.
It's almost inspiring a David versus Goliath story, where a smaller nation takes a stand and makes a real difference.
It is.
But I'm curious, did they address those systemic challenges highlighted by the case?
Yeah.
Things like asset management and witness protection.
Right.
Those seem pretty crucial for long-term success.
You're right. Those are critical pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah.
They've made some progress, but those areas remain a work in progress, not just for Uganda,
Right.
but for many countries around the world. For instance, they established a specialized financial crimes unit within the police force to focus expertise and resources.
Yeah.
They've also invested in training programs for investigators, prosecutors, and even judges to enhance their understanding of financial crime and how to effectively build cases.
So building capacity from the ground up.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're moving in the right direction, but it's an ongoing process.
Exactly. The fight against financial crime is a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
Criminals are constantly adapting, finding new ways to exploit weaknesses and move their money.
Yeah.
It's a constant game of cat and mouse requiring vigilance, adaptability, and collaboration both domestically and internationally.
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener.
It has.
We started with a bank heist and ended up exploring the complexities of a nation grappling with financial crime.
Yeah.
It's been fascinating,
For sure.
but also a bit unsettling.
Yeah.
What key takeaways should our listener ponder as they think about this case?
Yeah. I think the main takeaway is that financial crime isn't just something that happens in far-off lands. It's a global phenomenon that affects us all.
Right.
It's about recognizing the vulnerabilities in our own systems, questioning the source of wealth, and being alert to red flags. It's about supporting institutions that are working to combat this problem and holding those in power accountable.
It's a call to action in a way.
Yeah.
We can't
Yeah.
just be passive observers. We all have a role to play in making our financial systems more resilient and just.
Absolutely. And for our listeners specifically, think about what this case means for your own country. Do your anti-money laundering laws need updating?
Yeah.
Are your financial institutions adequately equipped to detect and prevent these crimes?
Right.
These are questions worth asking, and they can lead to meaningful change.
And one final thought to leave you with.
Okay.
We've talked about the recovered money,
Yeah.
but what about the money that vanished?
Right.
Where is it now?
Yeah.
Is it funding other criminal activities? Hidden away in some offshore haven,
Right.
successfully integrated into the legitimate economy?
Yeah.
These questions are a reminder that the fight against financial crime is far from over.
It's not.
It's a fight that requires constant vigilance, innovation, and a global commitment to justice.
Absolutely. The Sserwamba case may have concluded in a courtroom in Uganda, but its impact resonates far beyond those walls. It's a story that reminds us that the pursuit of financial integrity is a shared responsibility, a battle that demands our attention, our ingenuity, and our unwavering commitment to a fairer and more transparent world.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive.
Okay.
We'll be back soon with another fascinating look into the complexities of our world. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and keep diving deep